My name, it's pronounced Frankenstein.
Perhaps I could help you with that hump.
What hump?
I be someone. I be who? I be normal.
With that one weird line, Young Frankenstein, 1974, cemented itself as a cultural icon unlike anything else from its time. But behind the black and white frames and creepy laughs lies a pile of bizarre truths. From banned scenes and real-life props to a so-called curse no one dares to talk about. These are 20 weird facts about Young Frankenstein. Brace yourself, the weirdness is about to begin. Number 1. Shooting a black and white film in 1974 was already a crazy decision, but the studio went even further, trying to trick Mel Brooks in a sneaky way to change his artistic vision. Columbia Pictures, the film's original distributor, thought Young Frankenstein would be impossible to market if it was shot in black and white. They panicked over this bold decision, which Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder saw as absolutely necessary to capture the vibe of classic horror films. They offered more money, bigger promotion, even color previews to make Brooks change his mind. Brooks flat out refused, even threatening to walk off the project if they forced him to shoot in color. A serious threat that showed his deep commitment to his artistic vision. But the studio didn't give up. Columbia Pictures even tried to trick Brooks. They asked him to shoot the film on color stock with the promise they could then convert it to black and white to show in Peru. This was a blatant attempt to skirt the rules, and Brooks totally figured out their trick. In the end, to protect his uncompromising vision, Brooks took the project over to 20th Century Fox. 20th Century Fox agreed to distribute Young Frankenstein gloriously in black and white, completely respecting the director's artistic intent, and the rest, as they say, is movie history. Number 2. Can you believe one of the most iconic, bizarre, and hilarious scenes in Young Frankenstein, where the monster and the scientists sing and dance together, almost never made it to audiences? Mel Brooks, a comedy master, actually believed the putting on the Ritz scene was too weird, too long, too jarring, too Broadway for the overall tone of the film. He argued with Gene Wilder for days, pleading with him to cut it from the final version. Brooks worried that such a grand musical number would break the film's flow, distracting the audience from the horror comedy vibe he was trying to build. It was a really tense creative struggle between two close friends and collaborators. But Wilder had an ardent belief in this scene. He begged Brooks not to cut the scene, to the point where he almost broke down in tears over his enthusiasm. Wilder saw its unique potential. The sheer absurdity of a monster who could sing and tap dance, the contrast between scary and hilarious, and he truly believed it would become a memorable moment. Number 3. Can you believe the perfect title we all love today almost got completely thrown out, and only one guy dared to stand up and fight for it until the very end? Gene Wilder was convinced that Young Frankenstein was the perfect title, simple, direct, and hinting at a fresh story within a familiar legacy. But the studio? They totally disagreed. They thought it was confusing, too weird, and too slow for a comedy. The big bosses even suggested names like Frankenstein Returns or Son of Frankenstein, the comedy, titles that sounded safe but completely missed the unique and subtle vibe Wilder was going for. Wilder got furious and laid down the law with a definite statement: if they change the title, I'm out. In the end, the studio had to give in to his stubbornness, realizing that Wilder's value to the film was irreplaceable. And that simple, quirky, unforgettable title, it stayed, becoming an iconic part of the movie. Number 4. Can you believe this horror comedy masterpiece was actually dreamed up in the middle of a Wild Western movie set? It sounds totally crazy, but the truth is even stranger. The idea for Young Frankenstein popped up when Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder were shooting their classic comedy Blazing Saddles back in 1974. They were sweating it out on a dusty Western set, but their minds were miles away, drifting to a dark, gloomy Gothic castle. Wilder was the one who first pitched the idea of a Frankenstein movie, but not just a regular remake or sequel. Brooks wasn't super thrilled about it at first, and that initial chill from Brooks actually created a little creative tension between them. But Wilder didn't give up. He pitched a completely fresh angle, a truly unique premise. Centering it around Frankenstein's grandson, a reluctant heir trying to escape his crazy family legacy, a talented scientist who was just plain embarrassed by his mad lineage. It was that unexpected spark that finally caught Brooks's interest. He saw all the comedic and satirical potential in the idea. Number 5. So, what kind of place cooks up a comedy that's as hilariously haunting as Young Frankenstein? Definitely not some boring, stuffy office, but a space bursting with inspiration and pure madness. Every single night, Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder would crash at Wilder's cozy little cottage in Bel Air, turning it into this magical creative workshop. They'd load up on tea and cookies, making the scriptwriting process feel like a wild tea party, then dive headfirst into their insane comedy writing until the wee hours. Wilder and Brooks weren't just writing, they were acting, trying things out, laughing their heads off, and sometimes even having heated arguments over every single line and situation. That mix of serious work and super chill, fun vibes created the perfect playground for their creativity to absolutely explode. Number 6. Imagine trying to act a serious scene, but you just can't stop laughing. So much so that the whole film crew is throwing up their hands. That was Gene Wilder's daily challenge on set. According to many sources, keeping a straight face while shooting Young Frankenstein was no easy task for Gene Wilder, who played Dr. Frederick Frankenstein. No matter how hard he tried, he'd often burst into uncontrollable laughter, especially when interacting with Marty Feldman, Igor, and Chloris Leechman, Frau Blücher. Wilder laughed so much that some scenes had to be reshot up to 15 times just to get through them without him cracking up. This wasn't just tough for Wilder, but also for the whole crew, who also struggled to stay professional amidst the explosive humor all around. This non-stop laughter went on throughout the entire production, showing just how genuinely funny the script and overall atmosphere of the film really were, even to the actors themselves. Instead of being a problem, Wilder's fits of laughter became a sign that magic was happening, living proof that the content was so hilarious no one could resist it. Number 7. A notoriously strict and controlling director like Mel Brooks had to give in to the unexpected, sometimes chaotic, creativity of his actors. Sounds crazy, but that's how genius is made. Mel Brooks was famous for tightly controlling every detail on his film sets. He wanted everything to stick to the script. But Gene Wilder and Marty Feldman didn't always play by those rules. Between takes, the two would often whisper to each other, tweaking lines, changing jokes, and improvising their timing in unexpected ways. Brooks would yell, "Stick to the script!" However, they'd just give mischievous grins and keep changing things, trusting their comedic instincts. One time, Feldman even rewrote his entire introduction in a completely different voice without any warning, surprising Brooks and the entire crew. When the camera rolled and Feldman performed his new lines, the whole crew went nuts with laughter. Brooks, who was initially furious at their rule-breaking, had to change his mind after watching the footage. What he got back wasn't just funny, it was alive, inventive, surreal. Brooks realized that this controlled chaos actually worked, bringing an energy and spontaneity that a rigid script couldn't. So he gave them more creative space, not because he loved the chaos, but because he saw that it truly created genius. Are you surprised by these facts? Let us know by commenting yes or no below. Number 8. Chloris Leechman wasn't trying to be funny when she played Frau Blücher, the creepy housekeeper of Frankenstein's castle. Instead, she brought something sharp, cold, calculating to the character. This wasn't the over-the-top energy Mel Brooks usually loved in his comedians, but something quieter, weirder. A subtle humor that came from the character's very seriousness. She delivered every line as if it carried deep meaning, even when the words themselves were totally absurd. Every time she opened her mouth, the cast would melt down with laughter. Gene Wilder would crack up mid-scene. Terry Garr had to turn away to hide her giggles, and even the camera crew couldn't hold it together behind the lens. They didn't ask her to tone it down, they cut around the actors' laughter. The result was one of the quirkiest and most captivating characters in the film, a performance born from the delightful disruption of laughter. Number 9. In Young Frankenstein, there's a visual detail that few people notice at first, but is absolutely hilarious once you spot it. Igor's Marty Feldman hump inexplicably changes position. In one scene, it's on the right, then it's on the left, and sometimes it seems to disappear entirely, only to pop up somewhere else. This wasn't a continuity error in the script or carelessness from the crew, but an inside joke by Marty Feldman himself. Without telling the director or the makeup team, he started moving the hump after every few takes just to mess with everyone and see who would be the first to notice. When Mel Brooks finally caught onto the prank, he burst out laughing. Instead of getting angry or demanding a fix, he told the editors, "Just leave it." The hump joke became a hidden gem, an Easter egg that audiences could discover after multiple viewings. It was never mentioned or explained in the movie, just another reason why the film is so quirky and clever.
Oh, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I'm a rather brilliant surgeon. Perhaps I could help you with that hump.
What hump?
Number 10. The makeup to transform Peter Boyle into Frankenstein's monster took hours to apply. It involved multiple layers of latex, complex prosthetics, and super strong glue, each layer trapping heat against his skin, making him feel like he was baking inside his own body. Under the hot studio lights, it didn't take long for everything to start melting. His face would sag disturbingly, his forehead would bubble, and the fake scars would slide out of place, making filming incredibly difficult.
We love him!
Every time the makeup melted, the crew had to stop filming, rush him to a huge fan to cool him down, and then reapply everything from scratch, a time-consuming and labor-intensive process that repeated constantly. And through it all, Boyle hardly complained, an astonishing display of professionalism. Number 11. To create the intense storm scene in Frankenstein's lab, the crew went all out. They installed a massive system of pipes and water tanks on the ceiling to simulate heavy rain. They also built powerful wind machines, high-power flash rigs to create lightning effects, and custom light boards to control the intensity. When everything was kicked on at once for the monster's revival scene, it worked too well. The immense water pressure blew out the light canisters, the electrical system shorted out, and in a flash, the set was flooded up to their ankles before they could even shut the system down. A chaotic, dangerous, and dramatic scene unfolded behind the cameras. If you thought what we've uncovered so far was crazy enough, just wait. The next part reveals even more mind-blowing secrets you won't want to miss. Number 12. In an effort to make Young Frankenstein as authentic as possible, Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder had a wild idea. Instead of making new props, they'd find the original Frankenstein lab equipment from the classic 1931 movie. This led them to Kenneth Strickfaden, the legendary man who built the original Frankenstein lab gear for that classic. What's truly amazing is that he still had it all. Giant Tesla coils, glowing electrical arcs, complex control panels, everything covered in dust and stored in an old garage. And even more unbelievable, all of it still worked perfectly after over 40 years. Strickfaden, with his years of experience, personally hauled his entire precious collection to the Young Frankenstein set. This didn't just add extraordinary visual authenticity, making the parody feel like a real original work, but it also created a deep and meaningful connection to the Frankenstein legacy. Number 15. Did you know that a lot of hilarious scenes, clever jokes from Young Frankenstein, never even made it to audiences and are forever stuck on the cutting room floor? Even though Young Frankenstein is considered a comedy masterpiece, a huge portion of the film didn't make it into the final cut and ended up on the cutting room floor. Mel Brooks was famous for being a meticulous director, showing no mercy for anything he felt wasn't working. He especially cut jokes that he simply didn't think were strong enough, effective enough, or got lost among other comedic elements. This demanded a ruthless filtering process, getting rid of scenes that, while funny on their own, didn't fit the film's overall rhythm or diluted the story. Number 16. Young Frankenstein is packed with double entendres and witty jokes, but one of them almost cost the movie its precious PG rating and earned it a strict R instead. What's surprising is it wasn't violence or foul language, but a single seemingly innocent line in the film's final scene. As the monster is about to consummate his relationship with Elizabeth, she utters the suggestive line, "The sweet of life at last I found you." This line in that context made the rating board go ballistic. It took 3 rounds of back-and-forth negotiations with a lot of arguments and explanations for the film to keep its PG rating. Just one line, one joke, that close to an R rating. This was a fight for creative freedom and subtle humor. Number 17. Hard to believe, but there really was a Young Frankenstein musical. This isn't unusual for Mel Brooks, as he often turns his classic comedies into stage musicals like he did with The Producers. However, the Young Frankenstein musical isn't remembered or celebrated as much as the producers. It premiered in 2007 in Seattle, then moved to Broadway, and its last performance so far was in 2017 in London's West End. The musical also won the Outer Critics Circle Award for Outstanding New Musical, proving it still had its own value and impact on a segment of the audience. Number 18. The lead singer of the legendary rock band Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, was clearly a big fan of Young Frankenstein, and a specific moment in the movie left a deep impression on him. It was the part where Igor, Marty Feldman, says a very famous line to Frederick Frankenstein, Gene Wilder, "Walk this way."
Walk this way. This way.
With Igor's pronunciation and his characteristic limp, this line created a clever double joke. Tyler found that line so hilarious and memorable that he directly reused it for Aerosmith's 1975 song, also titled "Walk This Way." Coincidentally, he already had the song title, a strong and catchy hook, and just needed to write more lyrics in the music, and the song developed from there, becoming one of Aerosmith's biggest hits. Later, the collaboration between Aerosmith and Run DMC on the hip-hop version of the song made history, breaking genre barriers and bringing the song to a whole new generation of audiences. Number 19. When a parody film is so brilliantly done that audiences think it's an original or even a lost sequel, that's not just a misunderstanding, it's a triumphant artistic achievement. When Young Frankenstein hit theaters, something strange and incredibly cool happened. Many older audience members who grew up with Universal's original Frankenstein movies from the 1930s actually thought Young Frankenstein was a real sequel to those classics. Some asked if it was a lost classic, found and re-released, while others insisted they remembered seeing parts of it when they were kids, claiming it was part of their childhood memories. This just proves how excellent the film's authenticity and ability to recreate that classic gothic horror atmosphere truly were. Number 20. On the very last day of shooting Young Frankenstein, a unique and emotional ritual took place. The film crew gathered on set, not to shoot the final scene, but to hold a fake funeral for the movie. Someone brought candles, someone found a sheet to use as a shroud, and together they held a solemn but also hilarious ceremony. They spoke in character voices, delivered heartfelt eulogies, and took turns mourning the characters they had created and the memories they had shared together. It was an absurd, emotional, and perfectly Young Frankenstein moment. And after filming wrapped, Mel Brooks took the monster's giant platform boots home with him. Not as a usual souvenir, but as a personal statement. He wore them to fancy dinner parties, clomping around at Hollywood cocktail events. When people asked why he wore those strange boots, he just grinned and said, "They make me feel taller and funnier." What classic movie do you want us to dig deep into next? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the craziest facts from the world of cinema.